Hello, hello. Here we are again. We are in the sixth session. You've been such troopers today. There are people literally have been here since this morning. So I'm super, super grateful for you joining. Let me see if I can switch into the bigger camera. And then I'll talk to you about our Nomad Cafe. So here we are. Here I am. Okay. So I'm just gonna rearrange my area here so we can have a little chat. So this is the Nomad Cafe, and the reason I put this room inside the virtual co-working space is because digital nomadism, is that even a word, is so close to my heart. So how Virtual Miss Friday came about, and we'll talk about this in the festival as we go through. But basically what happened is one day many years ago, I came back and I'd come home from work and all my house had been completely robbed. And I remember like looking through every single room, and my front door was off its hinges. I mean, it was literally cleared out. And I remember going inside. I had a little home office in there. I was working in the city, and I had this little home office, and I was really very organized with my staff. And I had all of these big IKEA sort of box shelves things in a back wall full of them, and I would keep everything. Like I would keep birth certificates and paperwork and bills and utilities, and like I was just not I was not a hoarder of stuff, but I was definitely a hoarder of paperwork. And I would keep everything for years, like bank statements I would keep for years and years. And I walked into this office and everything had been cleared out. Like we're talking everything. So all of my paperwork had gone, my birth certificate, my credit card statements, everything had disappeared. And I looked on the floor and I saw my passport. It was the only single thing left in that office. And I reflected that day on what do I do with my life now? You know, do I rebuild? Do I go through insurance claims? Do I try and get stuff back? Or do I take this as a sign? And since that moment, since I saw my passport, my one single solitary piece of paperwork left, I decided I was going to change my life, and I was going to see what was on the other side of the United Kingdom, where I'd lived all my life. And the next day I went into work and I told them what happened, and it was a big shock, and I said I quit. Literally the next day I quit my job. Everyone was a bit shocked. In my lunch break I went down to the estate agent, told him I wanted to put my house on the market. I had a big mortgage. I was not, financially well off. And then I went to the travel agent and I booked a one-way ticket out of the UK for exactly 3 months later. So I figured I've got 3 months to get my affairs in order and to find a place to live on the other end, and, just basically try and figure out what I'm going to do next. And I remember, funnily enough, I'm in Egypt right now, and I went to Egypt. Okay, so I took my passport, I booked a one-way ticket to Egypt. I stayed here for about 2.5 years in the end. That's where Virtual Miss Friday started. So this is why this Nomad Cafe is like so important to me, to have this in here so we can come and we can talk about travel and working online and living abroad. And a lot of the people that I attract, or the VAs attract to work with me, are often people who want to, move abroad and live abroad. So I quickly realised I did not want to go back to the UK. I was very happy in my situation, and I wanted to stay. And that's basically how Virtual Miss Friday was born, or came about, because I was researching online. Back then, 19 years ago in 2005, it was a very different landscape digitally. There was no social media. There was a lot of things that are not available right back then than they are now. The only thing I could find that I thought would remotely go with my goal and my dream to not go back to employment and not go back to an office job was working as a virtual assistant and working online. Everyone said I was crazy. Everyone said it wouldn't work. But in the end, I decided that's what I was going to do. And that's when I created Virtual Miss Friday back then. And I was so driven to not go back to the UK that the business started. It started rolling. I learned how to build websites. I'd never done anything like that before. I learned how to use Photoshop, and I literally just started. And the driving force really for me was knowing that I never wanted to go back to the UK and live, or definitely not for the foreseeable future. I couldn't ever imagine myself going back. So, like I say, I stayed in Egypt for about 2.5 years, and then I spent the next decade traveling around. So, and I had children. I've got 5 kids, and 4 of my children were born in different countries. So I got pregnant abroad, and then because it was my first child, I decided to go back to the UK to have that first baby. Then I had my second baby in France, and then I had my third baby in Greece. And then I've had my fourth and fifth child back here in Egypt. So I did 10 years of living abroad and moving around and living in different countries and doing a lot of traveling. And eventually I couldn't find a place that I wanted to be more than Egypt because it ticks all the boxes. So that's how me, a very humble girl from the UK with a very average life back then, basically turned things around. Been living abroad for the last 19 years, and has never really looked back. And the reason I love virtual assistants so much is because it's allowed me to really live the life that I want to live, and it's allowed me to experience and have freedom that I know a lot of my friends, family members never have experienced and never will experience. And the beautiful thing about virtual assistants, it has evolved so much over the years. The industry is in a really very different place now than it was before, and you can almost predict what's going to happen into it. When you've been in it for so long, you can predict certain things that are going to happen, and you know that certain things are going to go a certain way. You can even potentially preempt the next thing that you're going to do as a virtual assistant. But the landscape of virtual assistants is so vast and so dynamic that it will allow you to really develop any kind of business that you want, to really have that business work, and to really allow you to do whatever it is that you want in life. Now, I've called this Nomad Cafe because it's about, I wanted a space where we can come and talk about working online, travel, living abroad, and I've got a lot of insight to share when it comes to that, particularly, in terms of offshore companies, which I have, particularly in terms of being able to move around with the business. There are also technical challenges that you have to consider. But throughout the whole process, the most inspiring thing to me is being able, and I have been able at any turn and any time I wanted, to completely change my life. And that's all because of virtual assistants. Maria says that's inspiring. Oh, thank you so much. I do like to inspire people. I hope to inspire people to do things that they want to do and to really go for it, because nothing is impossible. It really isn't. And I had a lot of naysayers, a lot of people say it wouldn't work, especially, I started my business on a dial-up connection from Egypt, which, back then was unheard of. And yeah, it just really went from strength to strength. And I feel so lucky that this industry was born and has developed the way it has. And I remember when I got to France, it was probably 5 years in to my journey, and it might have been less than that. And yeah, it was just an incredible experience for me, because when I got to France, it was the first time I looked back and thought, wow, like look at how we can move around, and look at how easy this is. And for many years, for a period of time, especially when we were moving between England and France, and then we went to Spain, and then we went to Italy, and then we went to Greece. We did it in a car. We just got in the car and decided, right, we're going to move now, and we'll go. And the most fascinating thing for me is originally when I was living in France, a lot of people didn't know I was abroad. I had a lot of clients in the UK and they thought I was in the UK. I never told them any different. And then suddenly people started cottoning on that I was living in abroad, and this was when social media started coming in and becoming more apparent, and then I would start posting images and people were realizing, like, oh my god, like, where are you? You know, that's not Cornwall, or that's not Manchester, or something like that, or London. And yeah, that's when it started to go a bit more mainstream in terms of the digital nomad movement, and I was already doing it for many years before it became a thing. And I'd also, you know, there's been numerous challenges along the way, but there's nothing more liberating than putting your business in a car and getting in that car, and 24 hours later or 48 hours later being in a completely different country, and then opening up your laptop and everything is exactly how it was 48 hours or 24 hours before, when you were living in a completely other different country. Nothing had changed. You know, that for me was the most incredible feeling of, like, wow, like, I can do anything and everything in terms of my business, my stability, my ability to work, my ability to earn money. It's all in my control. It's all in my hands. And it's a very, very powerful feeling. So that for me, and this is why the Nomad movement is so close to my heart, is because it really, it was the original driving force behind Virtual Miss Friday. I remember when I was coming up with this virtual assistant concept, and I was in Egypt and I was sitting on the Nile, and I was looking out over the Nile, and I just remember seeing all these palm trees, you know, everywhere. And I was like, what do I call my business? And I'm like, okay, well, I started looking up like Girl Friday and Gal Friday and things, and all this, you know, like the whole Robinson Crusoe, you know, type thing was going on back then. And all those domains were taken, and then I couldn't think of anything else, but I wanted to go down that road because of the palm trees, and I think, oh god, it's like, sometimes it felt like being stranded in the middle of nowhere. Yeah, and then I eventually came up with the virtual, and then the Miss Friday, which was the only thing available. So that's how Virtual Miss Friday came about. But it really was all because of a burning desire to want to travel and move around and not go back to the UK. As much as I love the UK, and I love my people, shall we say, I didn't love the place. It was very cold and very wet and very rainy, and that did not suit me. And I also really didn't like the rat race so much. You know, it's a very difficult place to live. There's a lot of work involved. You know, being from the UK and living in the UK, and you know, I needed a break, and you almost become addicted. You become addicted to the break, and you become addicted to the movement, and you become addicted to the lifestyle, and you become addicted to knowing that the ocean is just 2 minutes that way, you know, because I live on the Red Sea here. And that it's that addiction and that obsession that really drives me. And you can do it in any circumstances. You can do it with pets, you can do it with kids, you can do it for yourself, you can do it with a spouse. It's really just a case of letting go of the worry and the concern, and just going for it, you know, and knowing everything is going to work out and be okay, and not waiting. I definitely know if I tried to start my business, my virtual assistant business, while I was still in the UK, and I didn't go and do like a cold turkey thing, it would have been a lot more difficult for me to grow it, and I do wonder at times whether I even would have done it. So being thrust into that, the lifestyle first and the dream first, was really the catalyst for making it a success. And it was a success. You know, a couple of years in, I was earning $20,000 a month. I had a team. You know, life was good. Does anybody have any questions about working online, being nomadic? There are lots of things that you have to consider. One thing that I was certainly considering before I had so many kids was that you've got the ability. A lot of people talk about taxes and, you know, like moving around, and a lot of people used to think, and I used to get questioned because we'd go through so many countries, and then people were like, are you criminal or are you tax evading or something like that? No, I submit tax returns and things for my company. But you can actually, you know, have this certain lifestyle where, you know, most countries will only start charging you tax if you've been there for 6 months of the calendar year, or the financial year. So you can end up actually, if you move about 3 times a year, you can actually avoid that altogether and just live off the grid. I love living off grid. Am I planning to stay here for good? In Egypt? Yes, definitely now. I already did Egypt in the beginning, and I left for 10 years. And I learnt my lesson in those 10 years, that I went to live in enough countries to know that this is the only place that I really want to kind of live out my days. And I was 23 when I left the UK, and I'm 43 this year. So, you know, it's time for me to settle down. I'm getting older now. But I definitely feel like I've done it all, you know, like, I mean, like, I've traveled a lot in this time and did speaking in Bali and Portugal and, you know, in Delhi and India. And yeah, it's just been a wild ride. But I needed something that was going to tick all the boxes. I need constant sunshine 365 days a year. This is my first and foremost. And I need very easy way of life. I like an economical way of life. I like the sea. And, you know, the place where I am now really ticks these boxes. Is there any other questions? We still have a little bit of time here. We have about, I think it's 10 minutes. Martha! Hello, Martha. If it's Martha, who I think it is.
It is. I'm moving house, so I'm on my 5G, so I'm just like, been trying to go on for ages and just not had a second, so my apologies.
Oh, no, it's okay. It's interesting that you're here because we were just talking about nomadic life. Martha is somebody who I started coaching or working with back in 2011 when I very, very first started coaching, you know, in this space and teaching people. And at the time, Martha was, were you living in Scotland back then? Yeah.
Yes.
And now Martha is living her best life in southern Spain. So she has also taken the leap and moved. Jasmine, are you thinking about taking the leap? I think Jasmine might be thinking about it. I've just been talking about my journey and how I've had all these kids in different places, and the catalyst of the virtual assistant business was really the want and the need to live abroad and to travel and things like that. And I would pretty much, it's funny you popped in at this time, because I would pretty much say yours is probably the same thing. You know, I remember you so focused on wanting to go and live in Spain. And it's funny because I was living in Spain at the time when I started. Yeah, I was. That was 2011. So I was living in Spain at the time, and the fact that you ended up coming out to Spain, it was just lovely. It's my favorite story ever.
Yeah. No, yeah. I am. I think it's probably one of the best decisions I've ever made. Literally. And there was always something that got in the way, whether it was the kids at school. My son was 15, my daughter was 8. Well, at the time, we were thinking about it, they were 7 and 14. And literally just packed up everything, bought a rooftop box from Halfords, sold our new car, and bought a little Peugeot 206 short wheelbase. So it had it was like a 206 estate car, but just like a little small estate. Strapped up the rooftop box, and I swear to God, right, the rooftop box was actually about the length of the car.
I know,
So
we
when
did
you were driving
exactly the same
along,
thing.
you could literally see it. It was so funny. And booked a ferry, rented the place, and off we went.
Yeah, the rest is history. And I know you've
Yeah.
had your ups and downs as well, you know, with houses and things like that. But in the end, you stuck it out. And it's never easy moving to another country, especially when you don't talk the language. But the most important
No.
thing is, you know, like you see it through and you stick it out. And in the end, it'll pay off. And yeah, I'm just super, super happy for you. Did you move? Did you move into your new house?
Yes, I'm here. Don't get Wi-Fi until next week. We're still
Uh,
shuffling, but we're shuffling back and forward at the moment. So I've half moved in.
okay, cool.
So
Oh, and just for everyone here, Martha is taking part in the VA Festival. She's going to be doing a panel on digital nomad stuff. So if you know, we've only got another few minutes in this session, but if you want to learn more about the digital nomad working abroad stuff, you can come and join us on that panel. And also, Martha's got a co-talk in there as well, a presentation. So that'll all be coming up in the schedule over the next few days. But I just wanted to introduce everyone to you, Martha, because you're in the featured in the festival. Okay, so does anybody have any other questions about working online, becoming nomad, running a business abroad? Who here is living abroad or has actually done it? Has anyone actually done it? You can leave a message in the chat or feel free to speak. This is a communal area. Anyone thinking about doing it? Is it just me who's crazy?
just do it. Just literally do it.
Oh, Gina is aspiring to. Where do you live, Gina? And Jasmine too. Where do you live, Jasmine? Ah, the USA. And the north of the UK. Oh, okay. Oh, Jasmine. Yeah, I think I know you. Is it you, Jasmine? Nikki, I'd just like to take more opportunities to travel more frequently. Yeah, that's another really good reason. I mean, you don't have to be a permanent, like, live abroad nomad. You can literally just have that freedom and flexibility to just close up the house and move. Sunderland. That's a terrible accent. Sunderland.
You even get like a camper van if you've got a camper van.
Yeah, that's my dream when I retire. When I no longer have kids, because obviously 5 kids in a camper is just ugh.
No.
So when I no longer have them at home, maybe, you know, like I'm going to get a little Volkswagen camper and travel around, drive around, break down many times probably.
I think that'd be fantastic. Camper van, kids, dog, or even no kids, just camper van and the dog. And off you go. Just pitch up tent, whatever.
Yeah, it's brilliant. And it's really actually quite easy to do. You know, because the way things are now with 4G and Wi-Fi and co-working spaces, you know, it's a lot easier now than it used to be able to move around, travel. We used to have to worry about dongles and all kinds of things when we travelled around, but I don't bother with that now. Nicola Tower says I'm in Wetherby in Leeds. Oh, it would be good to chat VA stuff. Yeah, well, that's what this space is for. Join virtual co-working space and we can come and chat about VA stuff. We have scheduled sessions every week and we also have, you know, you can do hangout rooms and all that kind of stuff. And every room is different. So if you guys look at the bottom of the screen and you click on all rooms, you'll see all the rooms inside the virtual co-working space. We're doing this as a special open day today because I wanted to invite everybody in to kind of see what we have to offer and, you know, like what we talk about, things like that. And the schedule starts again after the festival has ended. So the festival ends on the 7th and we'll be back into our normal schedule. We have a few people here who are already in the beta testing of the co-working space. So I hope you guys like the new one. Spent a lot of time on this one, but it was a labour of love. Thank you. And yeah, it's just nice to be able to get together, and we've been doing this big launch now to take it out of beta and to get lots more virtual assistants in. So we're going to be having sessions that are related to working abroad, being a virtual assistant. We have our Success Hub where we're going to be training, coaching, and we also have a full archive now in the virtual co-working space, a full archive of training, workshops, coaching sessions, classes. We've literally jam-packed it full of stuff that you can go in and check out as well. So it's not just a community area now, it's actually become a training area, and there's a lot more in there than there was before, for anybody who was in the previous one. Okay guys, we've got 5 more minutes in here. Does anybody have, actually no, I think we've gone over. Oh no, we haven't. We've got 5 more minutes in here. Does anybody have anything that they want to ask or talk about? You're more than welcome. It's nice to see so many people from the UK. And the USA. We had so many people sign up for this co-working space thing from the USA. It was really, really nice to see everyone. Actually, it's from all over the world, to be honest with you. Right, I'm looking at our schedule. Yep, so we've got a few more minutes in here, and then we're going to be in the networking room at 5:15. And we're going to be talking in the networking room really about a subject very close to my heart, about pitching your VA business. Who do we contact in a company for work? Well, first of all, it depends what you're trying to do and what you're trying to work as. And also it depends whether you really want to be targeting companies or individuals. Now, for me, I would much rather target individuals than companies to work with. I've worked with corporate companies as a virtual assistant and done a lot of projects with corporate companies, and it's not my favorite. But if you want to contact someone in business to actually start working with them as a virtual assistant, the best person to contact is the owner of the business, hands down, I would say. But obviously, if you're targeting corporate companies and things like that, that's a lot more difficult. If you're targeting individuals, like for example, connecting on LinkedIn and things like that, becomes a lot easier. But you want to get in front of the owner, really.
Yeah.
It's so nice to see you all. Does that answer your question? Do you have any other questions? Would you say that starting out is like cold calling? No, not at all. I think it really is about how you present yourself and the mindset that you have, like going in. Now, Nicola, you've been around for a couple of sessions and I've seen the questions you've asked and things like that. And you definitely are somebody who has like the traditional employee mentality. And I think that you're somebody who's like looking to kind of apply that when you go into working for yourself, and you need to literally scrap that and put it out the window. Like I would definitely say that whole like it's going to be the same, but just I'm going to be working for myself. It doesn't work that way. There needs to be a whole new mindset shift into how you're going to get clients. Even Martha says it's absolutely not the same. It is. And Martha came out of working in corporate or working for a company, shall we say, and I came out working for a company, and I made a very big mistake in the beginning thinking it was just the same, but I had to basically get a job as an independent contractor as opposed to an employee. And you've got to take in a completely different approach to when you approach somebody for working in a virtual assistant capacity or an independent contractor than you would an employee. And it's kind of like when you don't shift your approach, it's kind of like putting a square peg in a round hole, or vice versa. It's just it's not the right fit, and you're going to come across problems. But you've got to start really thinking more entrepreneurial, start thinking more out of the box when it comes to getting to clients, and try not to approach it as like applying for a job. You know, like where you said, contact a company for work, okay? When you do that, that's like saying, I want a job. And you don't do that when you're a virtual assistant. You don't need to do that when you're a virtual assistant. It's all about, I'm willing to work with you if you would like an awesome person on your team type thing. And you kind of have to approach it from that direction, not from in a direction of asking for work. Nikki said, have you started it, Nicola? If not, I highly recommend Michelle start your business training. Oh yeah, it's actually, ironically, it's called The Freelancer, How to Start Your Virtual Assistant Business. And we're doing it on a half price discount in the swag bag. So if you want a complete course for getting started as a virtual assistant, go and check out the swag bag. It's on the Festival Pass page. And actually, I could probably put it in here. Give me 1 second. And in there is a discount code to get the Freelancer at half price, which is 50 quid. It's virtual, MissFriday.com, TVA, the Virtual Assistant Festival, swag. I think this is the link. Hope this is the link. Okay, so check out the swag bag. Yes, that's the right link. And you'll see something in there called the Freelancer. Definitely go and get that. It's going to really give you a crash course in everything you need to know. But try not to go down the traditional road of asking for work, because that's not going to work for this particular adventure that you're going to go on as a virtual assistant, as an independent one anyway. Nikki says it's so worth it, Nicola. I struggled to start, but I followed that training because I just overthought everything. Yes, no overthinking. And it really is about looking at yourself and thinking about what can I bring to the table, and then telling people what you can bring to the table. But it's not asking for work. It's saying, you need me in a way. Nicola's an overthinker too. I have a few of those, don't worry. I was an overthinker at one point. It's a muscle you have to unwork. I think, overthinking. You have to stop working that overthinking muscle. Oh, must be a Nicola there. Okay, guys, we've literally just gone slightly over. Thank you so much. I've loved this session. It's been fantastic. So I'm going to see you back here at 5:15 mine time. For the networking session, where we're actually going to be talking about this subject, Nicola, about pitching a virtual assistant business, the do's and don'ts and all that jazz. Okay, good luck, Martha. It'd be nice to see you later if you can make it. If not, don't worry. Happy new home, and I shall see you all soon. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. See you at 5:15, and next time we will be in the networking room. Okay, guys, take care.